Majesty Queen Elizabeth II died at the age of 96 on Thursday. In Chile, the Carabineros repressed the students of several secondary schools rallying to demand improvements in the education sector. The Peruvian Congress introduced a bill that seeks to bring forward the presidential and legislative elections to July 2023. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. Queen Elizabeth II, longest monarch in British history, died on Thursday at the age of 96. Buckingham Palace announced her death in a short statement, triggering 10 days of national mourning and an outpouring of tribute to her long life and record-breaking reign. The Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon, Buckingham Palace said in a statement at 6:30 p.m. local time. The eldest of her four children, Charles, Prince of Wales, who at 73, is the oldest heir apparent in British history, becomes king immediately. The Queen's death came after the palace announced on Thursday that doctors were concerned for her health and recommended she stayed under medical supervision. All her children, Charles, Princess Anne, 72, Prince Andrew, 62, and Prince Edward, 58, arrived to her Scottish Highland returned Balmoral. They were joined by Charles' sons, Prince William, and his brother, Prince Harry. Today's early the Queen appointed Liz Truss as the 15th Prime Minister of her reign. Following her passing at Balmoral, the Queen's body is expected to be conveyed by train from Aberdeen to Edinburgh, first laid at rest at the Palace of Holyrood House, her official Scottish residence. On arrangements for her death, her coffin will be carried up to Royal Miles to St. Giles Cathedral for a service of reception where Scotland's civic leaders, dignitaries and members of the public will have the opportunity to pay their respects and sign a vote of condolence. The coffin will then be put on board to Royal Train at Waverley Station, from where it will travel slowly down to East Coast mainland to London, with plans for an honoured guard on every platform from Edinburgh southward, ultimately returning to the throne room at Buckingham Palace. UK Prime Minister Liz Truss offered statements from Downing Street after learning about the Queen's death. Truss praised the role and service to the Queen and called for unity as the Crown now goes to King Charles III.
Today the Crown passes, as it has done for more than 1,000 years, to our new monarch, our new head of state, His Majesty King Charles III. With the King's family, we mourn the loss of his mother, and as we mourn, we must come together as a people to support him, to help him bear the awesome responsibility that he now carries for us all. We offer him our loyalty and devotion, just as his mother devoted so much to so many for so long. And with the passing of the second Elizabethan age, we usher in a new era in the magnificent history of our great country, exactly as Her Majesty would have wished, by saying the words, "God save the King."
And now we present you remembrance of Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II.
Envío mis condolencias.
Alexandra Mary, whose official title is Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and of her other realms and territories, Queen, head of the Commonwealth, defender of the faith, was born on April 21st, 1926 in London.
She began carrying out public duties during World War II as part of the Auxiliary Territorial Service, the women's branch of the British Army at the time. In 1947, she married Prince Philip, with whom she had 4 children, that is Charles and Andrew and Edward.
Following the death of her father, King George VI, Elizabeth ascended to the throne on February 6, 1952, thus becoming the head of the Commonwealth of Nations and queen of the 7 independent countries belonging to it: United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Pakistan, and Ceylon. In the 2 decades following her rise to the throne, many of the territories under her rule became independent, but later remained part of the Commonwealth. 14 British ministers were sworn into office by Queen Elizabeth.
In 1969, she appointed Charles as her successor by granting him the title of Prince of Wales. In 2015, she became the oldest monarch in British history, surpassing her great-great-grandmother Queen Victoria in age and years of reign. On February 6 of 2022, Queen Elizabeth became the first British monarch to celebrate a Platinum Jubilee, a symbol marking 70 years on the throne.
Over the last few months, however, she reduced her public activities and appearances due to her advanced age. On September 8th, Queen Elizabeth was placed under continued medical supervision because of her deteriorating health. Her Majesty died accompanied by her family at the Balmoral Scottish holiday home.
Join the international community of their dismay about the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said he was deeply saddened by the unfortunate news. The UN had officials stated Queen was admired worldwide for her leadership and devotion. The head of the international body highlighted Queen was a good friend to the UN and a reassuring presence through decades of change. He concluded by saying Elizabeth II, unwavering and lifelong dedication will be long remembered. On the other hand, the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, stressed that Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II will be remembered as a stalwart of all times. The Indian Premier highlighted that the Queen provided inspiring leadership to her nation and people. Modi conveyed that Elizabeth II personified dignity and decency in public life. Lately, the Prime Minister sent his thought to the Queen's family and people of the United Kingdom. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau tweeted, "It was with the heaviest of hearts that we learned of the passing of Canada's long-lived reigning sovereign, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. She was a constant presence in our lives, and her service to Canadians will forever remain an important part of our country's history. As we look back at her life and her reign that spanned so many decades, Canadians will always remember and cherish Her Majesty, the wisdom, compassion, and warmth. Our thoughts are with members of the royal family during this most difficult time." Brazilian former president and current presidential candidate Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva sent his condolences to the family and everyone who looked up to Queen Elizabeth II in the United Kingdom and around the world. Lula da Silva highlighted Queen Elizabeth II witnessed and participated in great historical events and processes over the last 80 years. On behalf of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela and its people, President Nicolás Maduro Moros mourned the death of Queen Elizabeth II of England. The Venezuelan head of state sent his condolences to the royal family, the United Kingdom, and the British people. We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. In Chile, the Carabineros repressed the student movement of several secondary schools marching to demand improvements in its education sector. The police launched a stream of water and tear gas against the students, some of whom responded with blunt objects. The students' demonstration left in the morning hours toward the Casa de la Moneda, where the Carabineros tried to disperse with repressive methods to the students who were trying to approach the seat of government. Students groups are demanding comprehensive sex education, more technologies, paid internships from technical high schools, the creation of effective protocols against patriarchal violence, and universal access to all levels of education. The Argentine Senate held a special session on Thursday to approve a draft declaration rejecting the assassination attempt on Cristina Fernández de Kirchner. The initiative issued by the Frente de Todos Coalición aimed at approving a statement based on two draft declarations presented by the Senators Nora Jiménez and María Clara del Valle, with the signature of the acting president of the Senate, Claudia Ledesma Abdala. The declaration was rejected by the opposition, stating that the government is trying to politicize the event and blame the justice system, the media, and the opposition as the instigators. Let us recall that on September the 1st, Vice President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner suffered an assassination attempt, an event rejected by the most Argentinians and political leaders in Latin America and the world. Brazil's presidential candidates Jair Bolsonaro and Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva are advancing in their political campaigns to increase points in a polls that showed a possible technical tie between both. The current president Jair Bolsonaro used this Wednesday the bicentennial celebration of the country's independence to show electoral strength and mobilize thousands of people in support of his democracy for the October 2nd election. For his part, the former president and candidate of Vamos Juntos por Brasil, Let's Go Together for Brazil coalition, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, rejected that it was not a date of love and union for Brazil, but marked by a language of hate that he attributes to Bolsonaro. Lula da Silva is expected to hold his first as official candidate in Rio de Janeiro this Thursday in view of the presidential elections. The Bolivia Warmis claiming Cholitas is a group of Aymara women campaigning for the right of indigenous women through mountaineering. Group's co-founder, Celia Lusco, age 36, is the daughter of a mountain guide. Since a very early age, she dreamed of climbing the snow cape Huayna-Pocito mountain, which rises over 6,000 meters above sea level. For many years, Lusco limited herself to cooking for other mountaineers and packing their gears until she and several other rural women, including some of her sisters, decided to change things around. She said her team was to show that women are strong and brave and that they can be so wearing women's clothes, for they consider their traditional skirt a symbol of emancipation. The Peruvian Congress introduced a bill that seeks to bring forward the presidential and legislative elections to July 2023. The project discussed in the Constitution Commission could be approved with 66 votes in one legislature, in addition to a consultative referendum to the citizens. The Commission has also created several working groups to carry out some political and electoral reform, such as modification of the cause for presidential removal and to avoid the execution of political leaders. This proposal arises after Congress has not been able to obtain the 87 votes needed to remove President Pedro Castillo from office. In Mexico, this Thursday, the Supreme Court of Justice resumed the discussion on the law of preventing pretrial detention. The highest court resumed session for the analysis and discussion of the preventive detention and it presumed unconstitutionally support of the project presented by the Minister Luis María Aguilar. President Andrés Manuel López Obrador indicated the decision invades the powers of legislative branch. López Obrador indicated that if the project proposes in the court, those who have economic power could be released, and emphasized that in this case the appropriate route to limit the preventive detention is to mark a reform to the Constitution and not through a ruling of the court. According to a United Nations study of human development, the world has fallen back to the 2016 levels. According to the United Nations Development Program, for the last 2 years, there have been decline in that indicator that started in 2020, and this is the first time it has decreased since it was created 3 years ago. A UN reported entitled "Uncertain Times, Unstable Lives" say that after the steady growth for decades, the coronavirus crisis caused the human index to decline to 2016 levels. The study preliminarily blames the pandemic, but also points to political, financial, and other crises linked to climate change as other elements which have hindered the recovery. teleSUR will dedicate its coverage of the Football World Cup Qatar 2022 to the figure of Diego Armando Maradona, who accompanied our crew in the last 2 World Cups. With a football star, we also toured our continent with a show, the Sur de Viajero. We want this tribute to have its own music. With that in mind, we invite you to write and compose a song for teleSUR's coverage of the Qatar 2022 Football World Cup. It must be an original song and never recorded before published in any media and free of legal attachment. Record this song in any format, WAV, MP3, even with your cell phone, and send it as an attachment to comunicaciones@telesurtv.net with the following information: author's name and nationality and the name of the son. The closing date of the call for the entirety is September the 10th, 2022. A jury of prestigious musicians and composers from the region will select the winning prize. The prize will be the recording of the song, a video clip, and the wide diffusion of the work. 1 week after the closing of the call, teleSUR will announce the results. We have more news coming up after this final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back. In Germany, the president of the European Central Bank, Christine Lagarde, announced the financial institution is lifting its key interest rates by 75 basis points, leaving them sitting in a range between 0.75 and 1.5%. The announcement came after the bank hiked rates by the 50 basis points in July, its first increase in more than a decade at that hitting record Eurozone inflation. At a press conference in Frankfurt, Lagarde said that such levels will ensure a timely return of inflation to the 2% medium-term target.
The Governing Council today decided to raise the 3 key ECB interest rates by 75 basis points. This major step frontloads the transition from the prevailing highly accommodative level of policy rates towards levels that will ensure the timely return of inflation to our 2% medium-term target.
India and China began withdrawing troops from their common borders after the clash in Ladakh region. The Indian Defense Ministry reported that both sides agreed to begin withdrawing troops from the Gograd Hot Spring sector following attacks between senior officials of both armies. The UN statement issued by the New Delhi indicated that this decision is conducive to the restoration of peace and tranquility in the border area. Recall that tensions between India and China have escalated since a bloody clash in 2020 in the border of Tibet and India's Ladakh region, which left at least 20 Indian and 4 Chinese soldiers dead. A Egypt urged the UN to provide funding to the poorest nations in order to boost their fight against climate change. In a framework of the COP 2017 International Cooperation Forum, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi announced that the cost of combating the climate problem will reach $100 billion a year by 2025. The president pointed out that 20 most developed nations are responsible for 80% of the planet's pollution. Also, the Egyptian Finance Minister Mohamed Maidit called for the better investments in various sectors, especially in the promotion of renewable energy sources. Australia's Senate on Thursday voted to ensure the government's target of reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 43% below 2005 levels by the end of the decade is ensuring in law. The Senate passed legislation supporting the target in a vote of 37 to 30, even though senators have favored it wanting more the ambitious 2030 target. The center-left Labour Party officially committed the government to the 43% target after it came to power from the first time in years at minor elections.
The government's climate change bill passed the Senate, 37 votes to 30. That's what restoring leadership's all about. It is well on its way to becoming the law of the land, Mr Speaker. And in relation to the leadership we have to show and the damage we have to repair, the House knows the impacts of 10 years of delay and denial and dysfunction. And what we've seen is 10 years of underinvestment in renewable energy and in electricity generation. That's what the Act is all about, sending the message to investors that Australia is open for business.
With that, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram as well. And you can also follow us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. teleSUR English, I'm from the South. I'm Ana Marrero, and thank you for watching.